Welcome everybody to the Watchlist, your virtual TV guide where we review all the shows released across all platforms. Of course, my name is Jose, but I'm joined by my very lovely co-host, and I use the term incredibly loosely. Sorry, Chewy. Live from Houston, big bro himself, the ambassador of love, el Señor Jaime. Chewy, welcome to the show, brother.
Yeah, brother, what's up, man? Happy
Happy
Sunday.
Sunday. We are very excited. We're just talking about fantasy football. We got drafts that occurred, drafts that are going to happen. And of course, we begin the season in just a week from now. More to watch on TV besides all the good stuff that we get on a weekly basis, or almost good stuff we get on a weekly basis, depending on what rolls out. So it's a very light week this week. So this won't take too long. We got one movie, one documentary, and two shows, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Makes
that's correct.
primarily Netflix. What else is new? Because it's Netflix. But anyway, let's get started here. And the first one we're going to talk about is a film on Netflix called Worth, which this is the first of two shows, which obviously touch on 9/11. We're right on the eve of the 20th anniversary. So of the events of that day, which I can't believe it's been 20 years. Jesus, time flies. So we got two, hard hitting shows, well, documentaries and a film. This one here is an interesting story. We got Michael Keaton, the great Michael Keaton, of course, who is
Batman.
a lawyer, and he was tasked with putting value on the lives lost, and I think the government was baiting out a couple of the airlines, involved in the hijackings and the crashings thereafter. And he's tasked with, it's an impossible task and an unenviable position to try to come up with a way to compensate those who lost their lives and their families, so they wouldn't essentially go after the airlines and cripple the economy, right? So the government was bailing him out. And of course, there's a lot of opposition, coming his way because no one's satisfied. How do you put value on life? So it brings up an interesting question: how do you put value on these lives? And we have those that has and the has not, that has wanting more, and if they feel they deserve more because of their economic positions, et cetera, et cetera. We got Stanley Tucci, who is great as well in this one. I love Stanley Tucci. I like this one, man. This was actually a pretty good film. This is one of those, not say rare good Netflix films, but man, I guess you could say it's a rare Netflix film, which worked. It's not an easy watch, given the subject matter, and they have the portrayals and some stories that the victims talking about the families and the last moments and stuff like that. So it's not an easy watch, right? Particularly us who are age, Chewy, where we were, living those times. We knew how heartfelt, how devastating that event was to the country. But yeah, good story. I didn't hear about this. I forgot about the fund that was created to try to compensate everyone there. So I liked it, man. I enjoyed it. I guess it's not an easy watch, but it's well made. And Michael Keaton, he's so good. I mean, I'll watch anything he does anyway. So Chewy, what do you think?
You'll watch him read the alphabet.
He can read the alphabet with or without the Batman suit, whatever. It's fine.
I'm Batman.
It's all.
Yeah. No, it was very good. Obviously, interesting subject matter, interesting story, something unknown to many of us. Obviously, 20 years later, probably most of us don't even remember what happened months and within a couple of years of that fund that was set up by the government to compensate the victims, not only associated with the airplanes, but the buildings and even first responders and people that came into work afterwards. And so, yeah, trying to, I would say so much as trying to put a number, but just trying to kind of, fairly balance
Right, come a way
the
to,
needs
to,
and
to make
wants
everyone
of all the
happy.
people
Right.
involved, right? I mean, there's people who were directly involved and they lost a loved one. There was some that were hurt because they were maimed or injured. And obviously, the ones that came in afterwards were suffered health problems years and years afterwards because they were involved in the recovery or attempted recovery and demolition of that site. So there was a lot of people involved. And you start getting into girlfriends and partners and children and again, this is 20 years ago, so it's not like it is today, where there's laws in almost every state
Sure.
about same-sex marriage and so there's a lot of factors involved. And so I think the whole point was not so much what is someone's worth, but what is the right way to fairly look at every case and not just simply box it in as insurance companies do, where they
Sure.
simply just put a formula together and here's your number, right? They don't take anything else into consideration but the factors and the rules in the box. And life is not about being in the box. There's exceptions.
Right.
There's differences, there's nuances. And so him coming to the realization that he was right. It's not just to come up with a formula and here's a number. It's look at each case individually and judge it on its merits and its fairness to
Right, and I think
everybody.
was Stanley,
And
yeah, Stanley Tucci's character, who's a lawyer whose wife died in 9/11. I think he helped them realize that it's not about numbers or fairness; it's about the respect to the people who suffer, right, and making sure that they're
mm,
just not a statistic. And again, you can't quantify someone's life, and it's easy to say you can take the net worth or the economic value for the remaining lives, how many years they had, based on what they made, et cetera, et cetera. But ultimately, it's an impossible task. I mean, no matter what you do, no one's going to be happy at the end of the day, right? Because the important thing is for them is what happened. Money helps,
mm,
but it's not going to bring anybody back. So it was really hard hitting. It was really well done. I like it. It's really a good, again, prepare yourselves. This is not it's not a fun film per se, quote unquote, but it's a well done movie. I enjoyed it. So I
mm.
definitely recommend this one. And again, with Netflix, you recommend a Netflix movie, that says a lot, because with Netflix is either
Absolutely.
cool action, is alright, whatever, or just garbage shows. It's nice to see
Oh, you got,
yeah, a good
you got
Beckett,
uh,
um,
uh,
to
yes,
say at least,
thank you.
among others. But it's good to see one that kind of fall through the cracks. I think this is a very well made film. I think it's really well done. Again, and tells a good story, which again I wasn't too familiar with. So one of the aspects of 9/11, which I didn't really focus on, obviously for obvious reasons. Another one, Netflix. This was a documentary, and we had talked about this at the beginning of the month, and that's Turning Point. I believe it was a six-part documentary, if I'm not mistaken.
A
Six
six-part
part, yeah.
documentary on Netflix that kind of, I'll take the lead on this,
Sure.
if you don't mind,
No, please.
Mr. Realmentor. But a six-part documentary that is part history, part investigative, and covering all aspects of the last 20 years. Actually, even before, because they go back into the origins a little bit of Al Qaeda
Hmm.
and Osama bin Laden, interlacing that with the events around 9/11, and then taking it forward to the 20-year war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq, the politics behind it, the mistakes that were constantly being made, or the lack of planning and strategy put together, and kind of give you a complete picture of from beginning to up to now of what transpired, how it transpired, and why it transpired. Right? If nothing ever happens in a vacuum, accidents just don't happen because of someone forgot something. It's a series of events,
Right. Yeah. It's not
right,
one
that are
reason.
tied
Yeah.
together.
Mhm. And
Yes,
this is a very
exactly.
comprehensive look into that, right?
Yes,
Yeah. I mean,
comprehensive, but it's not overdone with
no, at all.
loading
No.
you with facts and figures,
Sure.
and you're trying to figure out who, when, why, where. I mean, it's laid out in a I think in a fair way. I mean, they're bringing interviews from past administrations with people who were involved, from the auditors to the military folks to politicians, and everyone it was involved in some way, some form, with both through the events and then post the events. Even survivors were part of some of the stories and recordings that I hadn't seen in
Hmm.
other documentaries. But it's done in a way that you can truly see and understand the whole picture, and it's not trying to bias you. It's laying out the facts as they are, right? Right, left, independent, indifferent. These are the facts,
Yeah.
and there's no arguing
And
that in
we
the
and we
events that
yeah, and we
transpire.
talked about that where I didn't want to see this lean into any kind of agenda or side or
Mm-hmm.
take a biased take. It's just this is what happened, right? And it's cool because it presents it like it shows you events of the actual 9/11, of course, and then it cuts back to either the events that led up to it, like I said, 20 years ago,
Yeah.
and Afghanistan and Russia. Then it goes back to the current, 9/11, and it goes back to the days after, and then obviously
Mm-hmm.
into the war on terror. So
Yeah.
it's really what, yeah, this is another one
It's
where
it's
it's
it's very emotional. I mean,
yes,
it's
yeah,
it's
it's not an easy watch.
especially the recounting of that the events that they are still 20 years later, and you watch that, and you can't help but feel the emotions that you felt that day.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah,
not only that,
it's
I mean,
crazy.
you
Yeah.
feel anger, you feel frustration because everything that transpired before. Okay, maybe you weren't aware what happened during the Reagan administration and stuff, and that kind of led to the creation of all this mess and in a sense. But even post that, after we go to war in Afghanistan against Al Qaeda and terrorism, and the way we approached it, where we won, but we didn't win, right? I mean, I think we created a bigger mess
Hmm.
in the way that we tried to reconstruct Afghanistan into a democratic nation, and basically, I think from day one you could see this was was going to be a failed effort, because we just didn't know what the hell we were doing. John. So we're good at fighting when we have an objective. We're not so good
Right.
to rebuild and look at what's necessary to help a country bring
Yeah.
itself from ground
And
zero. And it's literally, it was literally starting from zero.
Yeah,
And I mean,
absolutely.
when you get started with basic education, there's no point of giving them arms and money and other stuff if you're not giving the people the tools to better themselves, and it's not putting a police force because they even in one episode they talk about the corruption, even within the military and the police force that they created. And so we were just making things worse. We weren't making things better for anybody, and it just became a mess.
Yeah,
So sorry, it just
no. I think the whole country was ruled by emotion, understandably so, and they took steps accordingly, and it was unprecedented for us at this generation. There, Pearl Harbor was the last real attack on U.S. soil, and that was 60, 80 years before. So it was what it was, but it's a good account of it. And again, it doesn't take any sides. Just this is what occurred. These are some of the events, and it's a real good take. And again, not an easy watch. There is a lot of emotional point. This is one where I probably recommend watching maybe one or two a week or some a few days in between, and kind of you want to watch something that's kind of cleanse the palate. Just say, okay, I need something lighter now. It's very heavy, right? Obviously.
yeah, it's heavy.
Yeah,
It's heavy.
I mean, it's 9/11. It is what it is. Nothing you can do but making a way which is heavy. There's nothing you can do about that. But yeah, I definitely recommend it. It's definitely a good watch. Again, just I stay away from watching like if you're gonna binge it, man, good luck with that. It's a lot to take in. Every episode's an hour, so it's a lot of information, very heavy. And man, if you can do 6 hours, good for you. But I say maybe one or two every couple of days or something, just to kind of like distance yourself and let it process a little bit. And that's the way I would see it, Chewy. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but
Yeah, I agree.
yeah. But if you do watch one or two and decide to watch it a week, there's a show which we caught which can help cleanse the palate. This is one that got released. I wasn't looking forward to this one. This one came out on at all. This was coming out. It came out on Hulu, and it's Only Murders in the Building. It's a comedy murder mystery starring the great Steve Martin, Martin Short, and the not so great Selena Gomez. I'm not a fan, whatever. She's fine, this please. But yeah, it's what I guess these people who live in a building. These three don't have nothing in
Hey
common.
man, this is a Latin Nerds Network. We gotta support our people,
We
man.
do.
Come
We
on.
support la señora Selena Gomez, Liz Amor, but you got to do good stuff too. But this is good. This is a
I mean, she's no Isaac Isaac.
yeah.
Oscar Isaac.
Forget
Sorry.
Ozra. Damn bastard.
Sorry.
I don't even get into that guy.
Uncle Pedro.
Yeah, Tio Pepe. I'm not even gonna get into that guy. That's a different story for a different show. But excuse me, we have here options. We got these three short, Martin and Gomez, who live in a building, right? The no relation, no nothing much in common between
And
the
I
three
would
of them.
say a high end
It's a high New York high
condo in New
rise.
York.
Yeah, high rise New York high rise,
Yes.
right?
It's not an apartment. This is a
No.
nice
Yeah, it's not a
condo
brownstone. It's just like
Yes.
this is upscale. Steve Martin was a former actor. Martin Short was a big producer
producer,
on Broadway,
director.
so he has money.
Yeah.
So Selena Gomez was still kind of finding out. But they released 3 episodes, and basically these three people they're like they love true crime. They happen to find out they all listen to the same true crime podcast. And eventually there's a murder in the building, which is initially ruled as suicide by the police, and they think it's more to it than just that. Begin to investigate, and they start creating their own podcast, following their own exploits and finding out who did it essentially. And this looks
Professor Plum with the
the candlestick,
in the library.
and I really thought this was going to be kind of silly and slapsticky.
It's not.
And it's not. I was like, first episode, I'm like, okay, I really like this show. I don't know, maybe it's just
Yeah.
me. This is good, and I kept
No,
watching. I'm like,
it's not you.
No.
It's really pulls you in. I think it's the dynamic between the three actors is very, very good. It's in good chemistry. Obviously, Short and Martin have chemistry from history. I mean, they've been in lots of comedies together. They got comedic chop. They came up to the SNL ranks, the heyday.
Sure.
They've done movies together, and obviously, they've had long, extensive career. More Steve Martin and Martin Short. As far as a movie career
Yeah,
and whatnot,
of course,
but
obviously.
they still have credentials, right? And Selena Gomez is relatively new to the game and stuff. Obviously, she's the young puppet as compared to these two. But the dynamic between the three characters and the three actors, it's kind of brings you in. I mean, you want to see what's like. You're part of. I would listen to this podcast and find out about this mystery, right? And I'm surprised. I mean, I'd seen some mixed reviews. I thought the comedy was good, the mystery was clunky, and I'm like, okay, whatever. So my bar was low. But after watching these episodes, I'm like, oh man, I'm in. I am loving this show, man. This is a very good show.
I mean, it's funny because you mentioned it. I mean, when I started watching the first couple episodes. I'm like, I mean, is it just me? I'm like, so maybe I'm in a minority. Maybe I know we hadn't talked about it, and so I went Rotten Tomatoes. It's 100%. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, so it's not just me or you apparently. So it's, I guess from what I seen, it's got well received. And and yeah, you're right. The mystery's cool. It's funny, and it's not. I mean, it's not because lately Steve Martin and Martin Short haven't been at their best, right? Which is fine. They're past their prime. I get it. If I was expecting, particularly Martin Short's very silly, and maybe a lot of sight gags and stuff like that. But it's not. It's like really well written, funny stuff in there. Even Selena Gomez has a few lines in there. She's holding her own against these two comedic giants, if you will. But it's good, man. It's a good mystery. I like what happened. The beginning of the episode, was it? I think what I don't want to say anything, but there's something there with Gomez's character, which I'm sure they're obviously gonna circle back. Really hooks you in because like, oh wait a minute, what's going on here? And I think she's the one
No,
with
no.
the
I mean,
biggest
yeah.
past that's being revealed here and there. So
Well,
yeah.
I think they're doing a good job of. I mean, we have the setup right.
Mhm.
They're in this building, right? What they're connecting to each other, we're still unsure. But then they start peeling back the layers through flashbacks and subsequent episodes, and you see clues in previous episodes. You see a picture, and then all of a sudden, okay, now it's tied into okay, what does this picture have to do with her history? And you start learning more about the history and the connection of the character and the victim
Mhm.
to the three people who live in this building, and you start expanding on the mystery, and you start learning things as you progress, and trying to figure out who done it. Really, I mean,
Yeah,
that's what it's coming down
yeah,
to.
it's actually it's a good whodunit show with some good comedy in there. I mean, it's not again,
Yeah,
it's not slappy knee, spit your water out funny, but it's very humorous. It's good.
no, but yeah.
No, it's funny. No,
Steve
it's legitimately
Martin,
funny, right? Yeah, it's funny. Yeah,
he's portraying the older guy who's not tech savvy, right?
right, of
So
course, yeah.
he's like kind of like my dad with the phone and the interwebs, and so which is funny, right? I mean, he's at that age where okay, you get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then the Martin Short character who's over the top,
Flamboyant, yeah,
flamboyant.
yeah, of course, overzealous.
He wants it right. He wants everything perfect and all this stuff. But that dynamic just makes it funny, man.
No,
It's
it
like
does,
that
yeah,
conflict
yeah. And then,
that drives
yeah,
comedy.
even doing the podcast, it's funny listening to like, okay, how do we? Because they don't know. At least Philip Martin is not familiar with that for the most part, and kind of the fumbling
Yeah,
around trying to get it right. So all that's really listen. This I'm shocked to say I put this on a must watch. At the end of the day, I
I
never
agree.
thought I was
I
gonna say
agree.
that, but watching the show, I'm like, oh, I'll give it a shot. I'm gonna hate. I really thought I was gonna hate the show after the
Look
first
at
episode. I really was. I'm like,
usually I'm not one to binge. I'm anti-binge. Like one episode, and then I'll take cleanse my palate.
sure,
And when this dropped, I started to watch the first one. Like, let me watch the second one. And I
yeah,
thought the second one was like, shit. Let me watch the third one. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm not gonna wait till Wednesday for the next
Yeah,
episode.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
damn
Say
it.
Wednesday or Tuesdays, either way. But there's 3 episodes
And
now,
Tuesday,
right?
because they're 30
Tuesday,
minute
okay.
episodes, so they're relatively short. So
Yeah, yeah.
for me, it's not like I have to sit there for 3 hours.
No, no, yeah,
But I was
an
like,
hour and a half. You get done with the first three very, very easily and stuff like that. So that's not a
yeah.
problem. But yeah, I think it's definitely a must watch, and hopefully it continues to build on what it has done already.
Mm-hmm.
We'll probably circle back on this one. Ooh, issues here with the thing, Chewy. We'll circle back on this one probably when the series ends in I think 4 or 5 more weeks. I don't know how long this season is.
It's 8, so it's 5 weeks. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So another one that dropped. This was the season 5 of Money Heist, a Spanish show. It's a heist, so some bitch. I mean, it's a show.
And that's why I'm wearing this shirt. High
The
stuff.
high stuff, of course, and I assume
Rando Tron.
it's a show that I think has been very consistent. I'm not saying this is an oh my god great show or anything like that, but it's a consistent show. It's very entertaining. Yeah, subtitles or we can watch it in Spanish. Lucky us, but I get it. People don't want to see it because of that, but it's actually a very cool show. Chewy season 5. I think that might be a 2-part of season 5.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
two
it's
part.
2 part.
It's the
Okay,
last. It's part one, part two. So this is the last 2 seasons.
okay.
I think the last 5 episodes drop in December, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, yeah. So your thoughts on what you've seen so far?
I'm 2 in. I think it's only 5 episodes because they break up the 10 episodes that season to 2 parts, and picks up literally right as the end of season 4
Mm-hmm.
with the helicopter ride. So they're coming off the building, and literally we get the tropian switcheroo, which is classic to a lot of the heist movies and shows and so on that. So hence the T-shirt. um, but I mean, it is a highly entertaining show.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of fun, a lot of action. It's not violent
No,
in
not at
in a
all.
way. a John Wick, right, where that kind of plays off violence and blood and whatnot. This is,
Hell
you know,
yeah.
it's
But yeah.
implied, yeah, it's implied and stuff. But I think it's good Spanish drama,
Mhm.
or if you watch it in dub, or that's fine, whatever. It's entertaining. There's always there's constant plots and twists and flashbacks and flash forwards throughout each
Mhm.
episode, because there's a lot going on,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you see the events transpire, but then you see, then you get look under the hood and see what's really going on. What is
Yeah.
this A, B, C, D plan?
With any heist, there's
Uh,
always moving parts,
yes.
and it should have moving parts
Mm-hmm.
and stuff that you don't see right away. So it executes
Mm-hmm.
that very well. It always has since the beginning of the series,
Yeah.
so as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But yeah,
My only complaint was the first two seasons focused on was the original heist
hmm
at the bank, right?
sure.
And so there was beginning to end, right? So there was part one, and part two, the escape, everyone's happy, blah blah blah. And then 3 and 4 they come back for another one, for a bigger heist, right? But this is just continuing on that second heist.
Yeah,
And maybe I kind of wish that they would have wrapped it up. Like the first two seasons was one, second two could have been two, and then this is just something else.
that's
Whatever. I
fair.
mean, I
Yeah,
guess
that's a fair
it's just a
assessment.
continuation. I see another scene kind of wrapped up the story, because maybe they couldn't wrap it up because of COVID, and you don't know what's been happening in the
Mm,
background when all
sure.
this was put together. So that's my only issue, but it's still fun. It's still entertaining. I
Yeah.
think it's a very popular show and across the world. I mean, without a
Yeah, no,
doubt,
yeah.
it's
It picked up
kind of
everywhere. I mean, this is kind of short. If you haven't
yeah.
started watching it, it feels like 1 or 2 or 3 seasons. I'd probably say it's worth to go back, but 5 seasons is a lot to watch. And I'm not saying you shouldn't, but if you have the time, absolutely, right? I think you can enjoy it. But I'm not gonna go as far as to say, dude, you gotta go watch all 5 seasons right now. Like I'm gonna go as far as to
Yeah.
say it's that good. It's a good show, but not force someone, but to make someone to have someone watch 5 seasons, that's a lot
Yeah.
to catch on.
This this
You
is
know,
this is not go back watch the first 6 seasons of Game of Thrones.
right? Exactly. Yeah,
That's
it's
like, no, you have to,
like, do
you
you gotta
have to,
see
you
it?
have to, you
Well,
have to.
I probably
Yeah.
wouldn't say that now, but given how it ended,
No, no, the first. That's why
but
I
I
said the
know,
first six
but
seasons.
when
I
you're
left
in, but
out
yeah,
seven and
when
eight.
season 6 started or whatever, there's a few shows.
As far as I'm concerned, it ended at season six. 7 and 8 don't
Is
exist.
I can live with that. But even shows like when Breaking Bad picked up, it was because it was on Netflix, and that's a show you can go back and you can watch the first 3 seasons
Oh
and pick
yes.
it up. So the show shows you for sure, but this one's not up to that level. So if you haven't started watching it, no, I wouldn't go back. If you have the time, I guess. But there's a lot of shows that come out every week too. I mean, you talk about them. It's hard to catch up
Mhm.
on something like this. It really is.
Yes.
It's just movies coming out every week, shows coming out every week virtually. So but again, if those who are in it and haven't started watching it, it's good. It's
Mhm.
good. It's just consistent with what we've
Yeah.
seen so far from High. So from La Casa de Papel, to put it
Yes.
correctly. Thank you
That's
very much.
correct.
It's an appropriate term. Damn those gringos. But yeah, Money Heist.
I
Whatever.
know. I know. How do you get Money Heist from La Casa de
Y-
Papel?
Yeah, for those that don't
Whatever.
understand it, yeah, House of
The
Money,
paper
Paper
house.
House,
It's the house of paper, or the paper
Paper,
house. However you
right?
say it.
Money Heist, whatever. Money Heist sounds cooler in English, I guess. Whatever it takes to get your attention into a heist stuff,
Mm.
fine. I think when I first started watching it, I knew it as Casa de Papel, if I'm not mistaken. On the first
Mhm.
season or two, then it changed it to Money Heist. As far as what I remember it being called after that, me leaving Miami, everybody was calling it Casa de, of course, because most people knew Spanish here, so I get it. But no, good show. I definitely recommend it, and it's off to a good start. I think I'm 3 episodes into it so far.
Yeah, I think I'm 3, and I think yes.
Yeah, so I think I'm not sure when part 2 drops, but season 5 and
I'm pretty sure the second part drops in December, if I remember correctly.
probably, I guess. I mean, I hate when they do it. I just release it all one time, but whatever. It's
Yeah.
personal gripe, not a big deal. But that being said, that's all we have. Again, not a lot of stuff, but some good stuff in there. Money Heist, murders in the building, surprising, yes. And then, of course, we get the two 9/11 stuff, which I think we both recommend. So this is the first time I think we
Mhm.
recommended every show we've seen, maybe,
Yeah, I think so in a
if
while.
memory
Yeah,
serves
but
right.
it's very lightweight. So next week's another
Right,
light
like
week.
next
So
week it's gonna be kind of light. The final week of September, after a couple weeks, it's really really heavy. So there's a
yes,
lot of
there's
stuff to
like
watch.
5 or 6 shows dropping, on Netflix. So not a whole lot of weekly shows. So there's gonna be a lot of stuff to watch that
Yeah,
last week.
exactly. So which is good. So that being said, again, Chewy, thank you again. I appreciate it. Looking forward to another good week of TV. Hope you guys enjoyed. Comment, share, etc., etc. Subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.